The Red Rag Riddle. Chapter 6. Katie Springer's Kitty and the Spy. How did we happen to pick the hottest Friday of the year to have a yard sale? Asked Miriam. She tried, without success, to keep a pair of socks from tumbling over the edge of a more than full basket of clothes. Tables had been set up in a large vacant lot at the edge of town, and before long, shoppers crowded around, pawing through this and that as they searched for bargains and treasures. Mr. Trueward and Reginald Upright totalled prices and collected money, while the parents and students of Harmony and Highland tried in vain to keep the tables neat. Pudge, Happy and J. Michael had tables side by side. Hapfords held a wide variety of toys, yo-yos, blocks, rubber balls, puzzles, model airplanes, and even a chemistry set with real chemicals and test tubes. Pudge and J. Michael manned a separate table. It contained a myriad of small electrical appliances, mixers, irons, toasters, saws, and drills. "Does this drill work?" a skinny boy asked Pudge sourly. He looked about 10 years old. His jeans were faded and torn, and his shirt was smudged with grease. A little leftover breakfast, grape jelly to be exact, stained one sleeve, which perhaps he used as a napkin. "Yes, it does work," replied Pudge eagerly. "We tried them before the sale." "I see. The label says $3, the boy mumbled something under his breath. He carefully returned the drill to its box and slowly closed the lid. He waited a few seconds. Then he opened the lid again and touched the drill a second time. After a third time of opening and closing the lid, he put the box under his arm and reached into his pocket for some money. His dirty fingers felt around and wiggled out a hole in the bottom. Nothing. He reached in the other pocket and pulled out an old candy wrapper, a fish hook, a paperclip, a crumpled note, and some change. "Just a minute," he murmured. "Here, how much is that? I'm not so good at math." And he handed Pudge the money. $1.81, Pudge counted. "Aw, not enough, huh? Okay, hold him on a minute. I just got to buy this for my dad. He needs a drill to fix up the house." "Really? Where do you live?" "Oh, just over there," and he pointed vaguely over his shoulder. All J. Michael and Pudge saw was a rusty old beat-up bus parked at the edge of the lot. "In that bus?" Pudge said, trying to hide his surprise. The boy looked down. He blushed, but he quickly stuck his chin out and said, "Hey, it's cool. We travel all over the country without even leaving our house. Not very many kids can do that, 'cause they're in school all the time." "Don't you go to school?" J. Michael wondered out loud. "Nah, who needs it? My pop didn't go to school, and look at him. Besides, he says too much studying fries the brain." He jerked his shoulders uncomfortably. "What does your father do for a living?" Pudge tried to get more information. He's his own boss. He gets to do whatever he wants. Usually he takes jobs out west picking grapefruit, apples or peaches. Hey, ever had a peach pit fight or an appleseed spitting contest? You're missing a lot of fun if you haven't. We do stuff like that all the time. Yes, sirree. We live an exciting life. Never know where we'll be tomorrow or when we'll get to eat next. You know, like in a book or something." Realizing he had said more than enough, he stopped. "Oh, sorry. I was looking for money now, wasn't I?" The boy reached into his back pocket and pulled out a worn leather wallet. J. Michael could plainly see it had no money in it. "Doesn't it get hot? I mean, it being summer and all." J. Michael motioned back toward the bus. "Sure. The heat makes you tough. A real man can take it," the boy answered, trying to convince himself also. "Do you have any brothers or sisters?" "Oh, yes. There's me, Barry, Jimmy and Jack. They're twins. And Katie. 5 in all. I'm the oldest. Bobby Springer is the name," he said, popping his suspenders and feeling important. "Listen, would you save this drill for me? Maybe I'll find some more money in the parking lot or down by the creek. I can find all sorts of treasures, like this fishing hook." "Did you see it?" He grinned, showing a missing tooth. "Yes, that'll be great when you go fishing," agreed J. Michael. "Say, let me have a look at that drill again." J. Michael pretended to look over it carefully. "You know, I think someone put the wrong price on this. It was only supposed to be marked $1.50. Pudge, who had been busy with another customer, raised an eyebrow. But J. Michael gave him a look to be quiet and changed the price on the tag. Oh boy, $1.50? Really? Wait till my dad sees this. Now he can fix Mama's dresser, and the clock, and the shelves, and the front door. He impatiently handed over the money, ready to lock his fingers around that drill. Now I have to find my little sister, Katie, before Mama finds me first. It's time to eat, and I'm hungry. And he ran off. Pudge and J. Michael noticed he was barefoot, but that wasn't necessarily so unusual on a hot summer day. Another customer came by, and no more was said about it. When lunchtime came, the children took turns eating. Pudge had to loosen his belt one more notch. He brushed scraps of leftover sandwich, meat, and breadcrumbs onto the ground. One boy threw an apple core over his shoulder into a patch of wild grass. Miriam peeled an orange over the trash can, but a few pieces missed the opening. No one knew a hungry mouth was behind the thick trees, waiting to scavenge every precious bite. Everyone kept busy until late afternoon. We really need to close the sale before it gets dark, said Mrs. Peace, folding the remaining clothes and placing them in a box. The glowing sun began to set. The dusk lazily crept upon them. As fireflies blinked their secret messages, the only sounds were the chirping of crickets, the bellowing of bullfrogs, and the scuffing of box flaps as they were closed. Soon, only one table and 2 customers remained. One was a man wearing pleated black pants and an orange and purple striped shirt under a sport coat. The other was a small girl looking to be no more than 4 or 5 years old. She really didn't seem to be a shopper at all. She lovingly picked up a pink t-shirt with a fluffy white lamb design on it. Sandy's little sister Becky smiled and watched. Her pigtails bounced up and down as she skipped over and asked, "Want to play?" The little girl stared down at the ground, embarrassed. Becky asked again. The girl still did not speak. Becky skipped back to her mother and tugged at her skirt. "That girl's funny. She doesn't want to play with me." "Honey, she doesn't even know you," Mrs. McMurcy said. "Wouldn't you be shy if you were surrounded by people you didn't know?" "Oh no, I'm not shy at such a big age," she answered. Mrs. Virchison, who was nearby, smiled as she looked down at Becky, all of 5 years old. Suddenly the other little girl saw something moving in the grass. "Look at the sweet kitty," she squealed. "Come here, little kitty. I won't hurt you. Oh, you're so pretty. I've never seen a black kitty with a big white stripe down its back." She reached for it. The animal growled and stamped its front feet. Splish! Something wet flew through the air, hit her legs and started dripping into her shoes. Ugh! The little girl screamed and dropped the shirt. "Katie!" called a woman from the door of the old bus. The woman looked very tired. Her faded cotton house dress made her appear even more worn out. Her hair was tied up in a jumbled knot, with loose strands hanging around her face. "I already have enough problems," she thought. "Oh, Mummy, help me, please help me," and the little girl ran around in circles. Everyone's noses told them that Kitty was a mother skunk who had hoped to feast on a few of the tasty titbits the students left from lunch. "Whew! I've never smelled anything so bad." Sandy bent over and choked. "Let's get out of here," Booker moaned, holding his baseball cap over his face. He would really have liked a gas mask, but his cap was the best thing he could come up with at that moment. "Help me! Somebody help me!" Katie cried, running toward the old bus. Her mother stepped from the bus. "Oh, no, you don't. You can't go in there smelling like that," she declared, and slammed the bus door shut. She and Katie ran back to the parking lot, looking for anybody who would help them. Bobby was still down at the creek, so he didn't know what was going on. Pudge walked as close to Katie as he dared and tried to comfort her. "You're going to be all right," he said, holding his nose. "You're Katie, aren't you? I recognise your house. Come here. We'll get you cleaned up." The girl looked at him, unsure if she could trust him. The tears running down her cheeks were as much from the strong smell as from fright. Don't worry, Pudge choked. My mother told me tomato juice will take out skunk smell, and somebody has already gone to get some. You mean all I have to do is drink it? She asked, wiping her eyes. Something like that, Pudge explained. The girl's mother watched as Pudge talked with Katy. His kindness puzzled her. She was glad he was trying to help her daughter, but she was unsure too. What kind of people helped strangers? It was beyond her. As long as they helped and didn't hurt Katy, though, she would just watch. At least attention was off the bus house and why it was there. She hoped they wouldn't start asking too many questions. Still holding her nose, Katy sobbed into Pudge's shirt. I'm so sorry. I thought the kitty would like me. I guess it didn't. I dropped the shirt on it, but why did it spray stinky stuff on me? Before Pudge could answer, Dr. Kindheart came back. He opened a can of tomato juice while Mrs. McMurcy pulled Katy gently away from Pudge. Katy's mother continued watching. She knew what they were doing was grateful. She had no money to spend on tomato juice, but Katy was getting help. That was what mattered. Katy's eyes were puffy and red. Her lower lip hung out. Mrs. McMurcy wiped the sweaty strands of hair sticking to Katy's hot, flushed cheeks. Take a deep breath, honey. Katy did, and Dr. Kindheart started pouring the cool, thick juice over her head. She wrinkled her nose and rubbed her arms. Icky, icky. She didn't like the slippery feel of tomato juice running down and soaking her clothes. Is this how I'm supposed to drink it? She asked, looking at Pudge. He nodded and opened another can. Take off your tennis shoes, Katy. I don't think we can save them, Mrs. McMurcy said sadly. No, Katy begged. It's the only pair I have. We'll get you a new pair and some fresh clothes too, promised Mrs. McMurcy. Almost everyone had forgotten the other customer who still remained. He was hurriedly scribbling some notes. The way Pudge and the others handled the skunk incident didn't surprise him. Although he pretended to continue looking at merchandise, his gaze never really strayed from the activities of the students, the parents, and Katy, until his pen quit working. He shook it to see if it were empty. It still wouldn't write, so he gave it one last good shake. Ink bled all over his hands. Frustrated, he pulled a red, decorative scarf out of a pocket in his sport coat. A sport coat on a hot summer day? Acey noticed the scarf and remembered the man from the grocery store. As he started to walk over to him to ask questions, his mother asked him to carry a box to the car. He obeyed, and when he came back, the customer was gone. The man had made a quick exit. Who was he anyway? Thought Acey. A pickpocket? A thief? An outlaw? Acey scolded himself for making too much of this. J. Michael and Booker hadn't mentioned one thing about any mysterious man. He was probably just a stranger who didn't mean any harm. Then again, maybe he was a spy.